Before leaving on a trip with her friends, my girlfriend looked me in the eye and said, "My friends think you're a joke, and honestly, they're not wrong." I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just nodded, because honestly, she wasn't wrong either. If I stayed with someone who respected me that little, I would be a joke. So, while she was away living her best life, I packed up all her things, moved her out, and let her come back to an empty apartment. Before we get into exactly how I executed the cleanest breakup in history, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Story Sparks. We share stories about self-respect, boundaries, and the quiet power of walking away. Now let's get into it. I'm 33 years old. I work in IT support for a mid-sized logistics company, and I live in a two-bedroom apartment just outside the city. My routine is highly predictable. Gym before work. Long hours behind a screen fixing other people's problems. Home by 6:30 most nights. I cook my own meals. I pay my bills on time. I keep the place clean. I'm not flashy, I don't drive a sports car, and my Instagram hasn't been updated since 2019. But I'm stable. I am a safe harbor. My girlfriend, well, ex-girlfriend, is Vanessa. She is 29. We had been together a little over 2 years, and we'd been living together for the last 8 months. Vanessa works in event marketing. She is very social, always out with friends, always planning the next weekend trip or girls' night downtown. On paper, we balanced each other out. I handled the structure and the finances. She brought the energy and the social calendar. It worked, until it didn't. Last month, she planned a 4-day trip to Miami with 3 of her closest friends. I drove her to the airport at 5 o'clock a.m. on a Thursday. I paid for her Uber Eats the night before because she was too stressed about packing to cook. Normal boyfriend stuff. I didn't mind. But the night before she left, something shifted. We were sitting at the kitchen counter while she was doing some last-minute packing. She'd had 2 glasses of wine and was FaceTiming one of her friends, the loud one named Kayla. At some point, Vanessa muted the call, looked over at me and said it, almost casually, like she was commenting on the weather. "My friends think you're a joke," she said. "And honestly, they're not wrong." I paused. I actually thought she was kidding. I let out a short laugh, waiting for the punchline. She didn't laugh back. She shrugged, took a sip of her wine, and said, "They just think you're kind of boring, safe, predictable, not really on my level socially." She didn't stop there. She added that sometimes she agreed with them, that I could try harder to be fun, that I was lucky she even liked stable guys because most girls in her circle wouldn't put up with someone so basic. She said it all like she was doing me a massive favor just by sharing a lease with me. I stared at her for a few seconds. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't defend my lifestyle or remind her who paid the majority of the rent so she could afford those Miami flights. I just nodded, took a sip of my water, and asked, "What time does your flight board tomorrow?" She smiled. She actually smiled, like the conversation was productive, like she had successfully motivated me to be a better, more entertaining accessory for her life. The next morning, I woke up at 4 o'clock a.m., loaded her bags into my car, dropped her off at the departure curb, told her to text me when she landed, and drove home to our apartment. That was the very last time she saw the apartment the way she left it. When I got back from the airport, I sat in the parking lot of my building for a full 10 minutes before going inside. Not because I was emotional, or crying, or heartbroken. I sat there because I was thinking. Vanessa had said worse things before, just not that directly. Little comments over the last 2 years about how my clothes were too basic, how I should post more on Instagram so people knew she had a boyfriend, how her friends' boyfriends planned bigger, more expensive surprises. I always brushed it off because none of that superficial stuff actually mattered to me. But this was different. This wasn't about aesthetic preferences. It was about fundamental respect. If her friends thought I was a joke, that meant she allowed them to speak about me that way. People don't come to disrespectful conclusions about your partner unless you give them the material to do so. And the fact that she looked me in the eye and said they weren't wrong meant she agreed. She looked down on me. That was enough for me. I went upstairs, unlocked the door, and walked into the apartment we both technically lived in. But here's the reality of the situation. I paid 80% of the rent. My name was the only one on the lease. The utilities were in my name. The internet was in my name. The furniture was mostly mine from before she moved in. I made a pot of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. The first thing I checked was the lease agreement, month to month after the first year. Good. The second thing I did was log into the banking app. We had a shared grocery account that we set up for convenience. I separated it back into my primary account, transferred her exact half of the remaining balance into her personal account, and took screenshots for the record. Then I called the leasing office. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't give them a sob story. I just asked what the administrative process would be if I wanted to remove a co-occupant who wasn't on the lease but was listed as an approved resident. The property manager explained that since I was the sole leaseholder and financially responsible for the unit, I could submit a written notice revoking her occupancy status. They would update the gate codes and the records. Simple. That was important to me. I wasn't going to do anything messy, vindictive, or illegal. No changing the locks without notice. No tossing her expensive clothes out the window onto the curb. I wanted this breakup to be as clean and clinical as a server migration. By noon, I had taken a half-day off work. I grabbed a stack of moving boxes from the storage closet downstairs and started packing her things. I started with the clothes, then the bathroom products, shoes, makeup. I folded everything properly. I wrapped her fragile items in towels. I'm not petty. I'm thorough. Around 3 p.m., she texted me a selfie from the airplane tarmac in Miami with a heart emoji. I replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. Then I kept packing. By the second day of her trip, the apartment looked staged. Not empty, just recalibrated. Anything that was mine was back in its original place. Anything that was hers was boxed, labeled, and stacked neatly against the wall of the second bedroom. I made an inventory list. 6 medium boxes of clothes, 2 small boxes of cosmetics and bathroom stuff, 1 box of random decor she'd added to the living room, a large suitcase she brought when she moved in, a metal garment rack she insisted we needed. I itemized everything in my notes app and took photos. Not because I expected a fight, but because I expect accountability. When you deal with people who rewrite history to make themselves the victim, documentation is your best friend. Thursday night, she sent me a video from a rooftop bar in Miami. Loud club music, neon lights, her friends screaming in the background holding sparklers. The caption read, "Living my best life." In the video, one of the girls, Kayla, leaned into the camera and shouted something I couldn't fully hear over the bass, but I caught enough. Something about upgrading. Vanessa laughed. She didn't correct her. She just smiled at the camera and cheered. That was the final confirmation I needed. Any lingering guilt I had about packing her bags evaporated. Friday morning, I emailed the leasing office, formally revoking her occupancy effective immediately upon her return. They replied within the hour, confirming the update in their system. I printed the email and put it in a manila folder with a copy of the lease. Then I called a buddy of mine, Marcus. I told him I might need his truck to help move a few things to a storage unit temporarily. He didn't ask for dramatic details. He just said, "Tell me when, man." Saturday morning, I rented a small, climate-controlled storage unit 5 minutes away from my apartment complex. It was cheap, clean, and month to month. Marcus and I moved all her boxes there in 2 quick trips. I paid for the first month up front in cash and kept the only key. I left exactly one thing of hers in the apartment, a framed photo of us from last year's New Year's Eve party. I placed it face down on the kitchen counter. That night she texted me, "Miss me yet?" I responded, "I think we need to talk when you get back." She sent back a laughing crying emoji and said, "Don't be dramatic, I'm trying to have fun." Sunday evening she texted her flight details, landing at 4:15 p.m. on Monday. She asked if I could pick her up. I told her I had to work late but wished her a safe flight. I took Monday off, not to see her, to finish what I started. Monday at 4:37 p.m. she texted me, "Just landed. Baggage claim is insane. Where are you?" I didn't respond. At 5:12 p.m. she called. I let it go to voicemail. At 5:19 p.m. another text. "Are you seriously not picking me up? This is ridiculous." I was sitting on my couch in a quiet, spotless apartment that looked exactly like it did before she moved in 8 months ago. No ring light standing in the corner of the living room. No pile of decorative throw pillows on the bed that couldn't be used. No random Amazon packages stacked by the front door. It was peaceful. I finally replied at 5:30 p.m. "You'll need to Uber." 3 dots appeared immediately. Why? I kept it simple. "We need to talk when you get here." She sent back a massive paragraph about how tired she was, how the trip was exhausting, and how this better not be about what she said because I was being way too sensitive. Sensitive. That word again. At 6:08 p.m. I heard the elevator chime down the hall. At 6:11 p.m. my front door unlocked. She walked in, dragging her carry-on suitcase. She was sunburned, wearing oversized designer sunglasses like she was a celebrity coming off a press tour. She stepped inside and stopped dead in her tracks. The living room was different. Cleaner, calmer, emptier. "Where's my full-length mirror?" she asked. That was the very first thing she said. "Storage," I replied from the couch. "What do you mean, storage?" She took off her sunglasses. I stood up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't pacing the floor. I had already done all the thinking over the last 4 days. "Your stuff is packed," I said evenly. "It's in a climate-controlled storage unit 5 minutes away. I paid for the first month. After that, it's yours to handle." She blinked rapidly like she had misheard me. "What are you talking about?" "I told you we needed to talk." She dropped the handle of her suitcase. She looked around the room again, really looking this time. Her shoe rack by the door was gone. The extra bar cart she bought was gone. The wall art she'd hung without asking was gone. "You're joking," she said. "No," she started laughing. That high, sharp, defensive laugh she uses when she thinks someone is being ridiculous. "Is this about what I said before the trip? Oh my God, you're actually this insecure." I shook my head. "It's not about insecurity, Vanessa. It's about agreement. Your friends think I'm a joke because you allow them to, and you looked me in the eye and said they're not wrong." She rolled her eyes, waving a hand dismissively. "It was a comment," I had whined. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." "No," I said. "I'm reacting proportionally to being disrespected in my own home." Her face changed then. The fake amusement dropped. She wasn't sad. She wasn't sorry. She was annoyed. "So what?" she snapped. "You're kicking me out," I corrected her calmly. "You don't live here anymore." She stared at me like I'd just spoken Mandarin. "I don't live here anymore." She laughed again, but it sounded much thinner this time. "My clothes are here, David." "Not anymore," I said. "I told you, they're boxed. I have a full inventory list and photos to prove nothing is damaged. You can pick them up tonight or tomorrow. I'll give you the storage key once you confirm everything is there." "You're insane," she whispered. "No, I'm decisive." She stepped closer, lowering her voice, slipping into that tone she uses when she thinks she can smooth things over with charm alone. "You're seriously throwing away 2 years because I said my friends think you're boring." I corrected her again. "Because you agreed with them, and because you are perfectly comfortable disrespecting me publicly." "I never disrespected you publicly," she shot back. "You laughed in a video when Kayla told you to upgrade." Her mouth opened, then closed. That landed. "That was a joke," she deflected. "Jokes are funny," I said. "That wasn't." She crossed her arms, her posture defensive. "So what? You want me to beg? You want me to apologize?" "No," she blinked, confused. "No, no," I repeated. "I don't want an apology. I want alignment, and we clearly don't have it." She started pacing the small entryway. "You're overreacting. Everyone talks about their relationships with their friends. That's normal." "Talking is normal," I said. "Undermining is not." She shook her head, getting angry now. You're just mad because you're not like their boyfriends. They're outgoing, they actually plan things, they're fun. Then you should date one of them, I said simply. That stopped her pacing dead in its tracks. You don't mean that. I do. Silence stretched between us. It wasn't a dramatic movie scene silence. It was just clear. The air was finally clear. She tried a completely different angle. So, where am I supposed to go right now? I just got off a flight. That's not my responsibility, I said. You were very comfortable telling me that I'm lucky you even like stable guys. So, I'm highly confident you'll find something less boring tonight. That one hit. Her eyes narrowed into slits. You're being cold. I'm being consistent. She looked around the room one last time, maybe hoping I'd crack. Maybe waiting for me to sigh and say, fine, let's just calm down and order a pizza. I didn't. I just stood there, waiting for her to leave. After about 30 seconds of staring me down, she grabbed the handle of her suitcase and headed for the door. This isn't over, she said over her shoulder. For me, it is, I replied. The door closed. And for the first time in 8 months, my apartment was entirely mine again. I didn't block her immediately. That's something I see people do out of raw emotion. I wasn't emotional. I was finished. I wanted to keep the line open strictly for the logistics of the storage unit. About 20 minutes after she left, my phone started lighting up. First came the texts. Are you seriously doing this? You're embarrassing yourself. My friends were right about you. You're small. That last one was interesting. The mask was completely off. Then came the calls. I let them ring. Then the voicemails. The first one was angry. She called me dramatic, insecure, and a coward. The second one shifted tone. She said she didn't mean it like that I took it the wrong way, and that I know how her friends are. By the third voicemail, she sounded different. Not softer, just calculating. You're going to regret this. You think you can just replace me. That confirmed something important for me. This reaction wasn't about losing us. It was about losing her status, her safety net. I sent one final text message. There is nothing to regret. Your belongings are secure. Let me know when you want to meet to get the storage key. Then I muted the thread. An hour later, my phone rang again. It wasn't her. It was her friend, Kayla. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call came from a different number, probably another one of the Miami crew. I answered that one just to shut it down. It was Kayla anyway. Are you really going to throw Vanessa out on the street over a comment? Kayla demanded, her voice shrill. I kept my tone perfectly even. She wasn't thrown out on the street. She no longer lives in my apartment. Oh my God, you're being so literal. It was a joke. We tease each other all the time. You don't date me, she does. Silence. I let her hear her own echo. Kayla tried again, softer this time. She's upset, David. She feels completely blindsided. She had 4 days in Miami to reflect on what she said, I replied calmly. She chose rooftop bars instead. Kayla exhaled sharply. You're proving her point right now. You're being rigid. If her point was that I won't tolerate being disrespected in my own home, then yes, I am proving her point. There was nothing left to debate. I hung up and blocked all unknown numbers. Around 9 p.m., Vanessa texted one last time. Where am I supposed to stay tonight? I read it, put the phone face down, and turned on the TV. That wasn't my problem anymore. She had a network of fun friends. They could figure it out. Tuesday morning, I went back to work like nothing had happened. That's the part people don't expect when a relationship ends. They think there's supposed to be some dramatic week-long spiral where you call in sick and stare at the wall. There wasn't. I had morning meetings. I handled IT tickets. I fixed a server issue that had been lingering for 2 days. Life continued. The world didn't stop spinning just because Vanessa was sleeping on a friend's couch. Around 10 a.m., Vanessa sent a single text. Can we just talk like adults? I replied during my lunch break. We already did. She called immediately after that. I stepped outside the office building to take it. Her tone was completely different now. Calm, measured, professional. I didn't think you'd actually end things over that, she said quietly. That's the problem, Vanessa. What is? You didn't think I would, you thought I was a guarantee. She was quiet for a second. I was venting. My friends exaggerate and I exaggerate back to fit in. It's not that deep. It is that deep, I said. You don't accidentally agree that your partner is a joke. You're twisting it, she said, her frustration leaking through. No, I'm taking it at face value. She shifted tactics again, going on the offensive. You've been distant for months anyway. You don't plan anything exciting. You don't post us on social media. It feels like you're hiding me, I responded simply. I don't perform my relationship for an audience of your friends. That's not performing, that's being proud of who you're with. I am proud of who I am, I said. I don't need a ring light and a hashtag to prove it, she exhaled sharply. So that's it, you're just done. Yes, just like that. Not just like that, I corrected. After careful consideration, she tried one last desperate angle. We lived together, David. We built a life. We shared a space. That means something. Silence again. Then softer. You're really not going to fight for this, I answered honestly. There's nothing to fight for. You said what you actually believe about me, and I believe you. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just said, fine. And then she hung up. That was the moment I knew I'd made the right decision. Not because she was angry, but because, through all the texting, calling, and negotiating, she still never once said she was wrong. Over the next few days, the narrative started shifting. Not from me, but from her. Mutual acquaintances started reaching out. Not my close friends, but people from her side. People who had seen the highly curated version of our relationship online. Hey man, heard things ended kind of abruptly. Vanessa's pretty shaken up. She said you kicked her out while she was out of town. That word again, kicked out. I didn't respond to most of them. The few I did respond to, I kept it brief and clinical. It was my apartment. We broke up. Her belongings are secure in storage. Best of luck. No emotion, no defense, no getting dragged into the mud. Thursday afternoon, Vanessa posted a vague story on Instagram. A black background with white text. Some people can't handle strong women. Know your worth. There were replies, fire emojis, crown emojis, her friends hyping her up in the comments like she had just survived a harrowing ordeal. I watched it without reacting. Then, around 8 p.m., she sent another message directly to me. I can't believe you're making me look crazy to everyone. That one actually made me laugh out loud in my kitchen. I hadn't posted a single thing. I hadn't explained the breakup publicly. I had literally just gone to work, gone to the gym, and cooked dinner. You made your own story, I replied. So now I'm the villain. I didn't answer that. Instead, I asked when she wanted to meet to get her storage unit key. She responded with a paragraph. You know what? Keep it. I don't even care. You're acting like some cold robot. You never even loved me. There it was. The ultimate attempt to provoke a reaction. I typed a response, then deleted it. I realized something in that moment. There was absolutely no reason for my phone to keep lighting up over someone who had already told me how little they thought of me. So I did what I should have done 3 days earlier. I transferred her number to my blocked list, then Instagram, then WhatsApp. Then I revoked her access to any shared photo albums on iCloud. Not dramatic, not symbolic, just a clean digital sweep. The silence that followed wasn't tense, it was complete. For the first time since she left for Miami, there was no pending conversation, no incoming text to decipher, no next move to calculate, just quiet. I didn't hear from her for 5 days. Not directly anyway, but silence doesn't always mean absence. When dealing with toxic dynamics, silence usually just means indirect pressure. Saturday afternoon, I ran into one of her friends at the grocery store. Not by accident. This store isn't anywhere near her side of town. She saw me first. Wow, you look fine, she said, sounding disappointed, like she expected me to have visible damage. I am fine, she tilted her head. Vanessa said you completely shut down, blocked her everywhere. That's kind of extreme. It's efficient, I corrected. She crossed her arms. You know she's been staying on Kayla's couch, right? She had nowhere to go. That wasn't accurate, I said. She had options, she just didn't expect to need them. I kept my tone neutral. We're not together, she's an adult. She'll figure it out. The friend sighed dramatically. You could have at least talked it through before blowing everything up. We did talk it through. She spoke and I listened. She looked unconvinced. Over one comment, over one truth, I said. That ended the conversation. When I got home, I realized something important. As long as I was accessible through other people, there was still a thread connecting us. So, I did one more thing. I archived every shared photo of us on my social media. Not deleted, just removed from public view. No announcements, no sad captions, no emotional quotes. Then I sent one final message to the only mutual friend I actually respected. If Vanessa needs anything logistical regarding her storage unit, have her email me. Otherwise, I am not available. That was it. No more phone calls. No more triangulation. No more indirect commentary. I went for a run that evening. Came back. Cooked dinner. Watched a show without someone narrating it over my shoulder or scrolling TikTok on full volume beside me. There's a massive difference between being alone and being at peace. That weekend, I felt the difference clearly. And for the first time since she said I was a joke, I realized something. The only thing embarrassing would have been staying. 2 weeks after I blocked her, I got the email. The subject line was simply, storage, no emotion in the body of the email. No accusations. Just a brief request for the unit number and gate code so she could retrieve her things. That told me something. The storm phase of the breakup was over. The reality phase had set in. I replied with the information and provided a 2-hour time window when I would be there to hand over the physical key in person. Not because I needed closure, but because I wanted the exchange finished cleanly, with no claims that I held her stuff hostage. We met on a Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. in front of the storage facility. Neutral ground, public place, highly efficient. She looked different, less polished. No dramatic energy, just tired. You really went through with it, she said as I handed her the key on a generic ring. Yes. She studied my face for a second, like she was still trying to figure out if this was some elaborate long game I was playing to win her back. Most guys would have begged, she said. I shrugged. Then you dated the wrong type of guy. That almost made her smile, but it faded quickly. You know, I didn't actually think you were a joke, right? I didn't respond immediately. I just looked at her. I think you did, I said finally. Or at the very least, you were completely comfortable letting other people think that. And to me, that's the exact same thing. She didn't argue. We walked to the unit. I unlocked the padlock. All her boxes were stacked exactly how I left them, neatly labeled, nothing damaged, nothing thrown around in anger. You packed this all yourself, she asked, looking at the tidy stacks. Yes, she nodded slowly. For what it's worth. I didn't think you had the nerve. That word again. I locked the unit open for her, handed her the key permanently, and stepped back. Take care of yourself, Vanessa, I said. That was it. No hug, no dramatic goodbye. No lingering looks or second guessing. I got in my car and drove back to my apartment. My apartment, it wasn't bigger, it wasn't fancier, but it was mine, and it was quiet. People think strength looks loud. They think it looks like shouting matches, throwing clothes on the lawn and screaming ultimatums. But most of the time, true strength looks exactly like this. A decision made once and never revisited. If this story resonated with you, if you appreciate the power of setting a boundary and holding it, hit the like button. It helps the channel, and it helps this message reach people who might be tolerating disrespect right now. Drop a comment below. Would you have packed her bags or waited for her to get back? Subscribe to Story Sparks for more real stories about resilience and knowing your worth. Until next time, stay strong and don't ever let anyone treat you like a joke.